Today I'm going to show you how to do some softwood cuttings. We've come into the shed today for this one because we've had a lovely May. It's been really hot, and suddenly we've had a change in weather, and it's beginning of June. It's really cold. Actually, it's not a bad day for taking some softwood cuttings because the heat can be a bit of a problem in the really hot days. So come into the shed, so it should work quite well. Hopefully you should be able to see what I'm doing here. So I've taken some softwood cuttings when the stem is soft, so it's flexible, it's bendy. I'll see if I can show you on one of these. So there's three main types of cuttings, which are hardwood, which we take in winter, which is like a stick, which looks about a thickness of a pencil, that kind of thing. You take those in winter when it's not growing, and then you've got softwood, and you take it probably late spring, early summer, when it's full of growth, full of hormones, full of growth, and it wants to grow. So the softwood is that it's completely bendy, it's completely flexible, so it's all soft. You take semi-ripe later on in the year, towards the end of summer, when the bottom part has started to turn woody and more firm, but the top part is still soft. So I'll try and show you a video of that later when we get to that, that time of year. So the reason I said that it was not a bad day actually to take cuttings is because the two biggest risks to cuttings, softwood cuttings in particular, semi-ripe as well, but softwood, they're the most vulnerable, is that they lose water really quickly. So the full growth, look at all those leaves there, I've chopped it off and there's no roots, so its only way of getting water is through the roots and up through the stem, and it currently hasn't got any. So when it's hot, it's obviously losing water through transpiration more quicker. So in the leaves, underside of the leaves, they've got like pores, a bit like pores called stomata, and that's where the water evaporates from. So it comes out, well, as a gas, it comes out of the stomata, and that's transpiration, so that's where it loses its water. So it doesn't take any water in through the leaves, only through the roots, but it loses them through the leaves. So what you've done there is, on a hot sunny days, it's losing it more rapidly. So what you should do, what's good practice, is to have a freezer bag, and you take them when you're going around the garden. You can just cut them off. You don't have to be too precise about where you cut them off the plant, only that the plant that you leave looks alright. So if you leave a long stem, particularly with the woody cuttings, between the nodes, which is the point where it grows from, is that it'll die back to the next node. So you tend to end up with a really ugly piece of dead wood, and it also is potential source of infection that's going to spread down. So you want to take it just above the nodes really. But with softwood cuttings, because there's so many leaves on, that's not really a problem, and it's growing so quick, and there's such a short gap between the leaves there, stem, that it's not really a huge problem. So what you should do is keep them in the bag as long as possible, because that creates a moist environment even at any time of year. So I've got myself a pot, and I prefer the round ones to the square ones for the cuttings. The square ones are really good for seeds on small plants because you can get them close together, stack them close together. But I think I find these, because you're going to put them around the edge, that you can just get a bit more in, it works a bit better. So I've made a mix of compost, which is peat-free compost, multi-purpose compost. This one's the New Horizon one. And I've actually got a bit of a test going on between two chilies, one in the B&Q peat-free and one in the New Horizon. We'll see how that turns out, if anything. And what I've done is I've mixed it with about a third or a half of perlite. So perlite being that volcanic rock that I've shown you before on the seed sowing. It really is, that's it there, it's really isn't sort of worth spending the money on for seed sowing and for cuttings, because it makes a difference. It makes a difference because the perlite for cuttings is it opens it up, so it opens up the drainage. Because the two biggest problems with the cuttings are, the two biggest risks to them not succeeding are the wilt in that early stage, and you don't get them in, and they die, they've lost too much water, or that they rot in the pot, in the soil, you see. So if you can get some perlite in there, it increases the drainage. So I'm going to fill it up, fill it over the top like I usually do, and then you can push the top off and just tap it down, because you want a lot of, you don't want it all stodgy and compressed, because that's going to cause problems with drainage. You want it to be as free draining as possible. So I've done that. You can use you can use some rooting hormone if you want to. So hopefully you can see those. So that's a gel there. So that's usually good for like edibles and things like that. If you want to, you don't want any chemicals involved. You want something natural. And this one is there's a natural rooting powder also. That's from, I probably bought both, so that you could use them for edible cuttings, and it's a good thing to do anyway. But I would go with the organic rooting gel if you're gonna eat whatever the plant is that you're gonna grow. So the gel is, as it sounds, like a gel. So it's like a liquid. It's a bit of a murky liquid there. Give it a good shape before you use it. And the powder tends to be a white powder. This one is a bit more sandy and gritty, but it tends to be a white powder. I think I've got another one here. There, that's an older type of one, but you still get these like that, and that's like a white powder, if you can hopefully see that on the camera. I generally don't use them for softwood cuttings because they're growing so quick, they're so full of hormones and they're growing so quick. But for the purposes of this, I'll show you how to do it. So what you want to do is, you want to be looking at this cutting here, and you want to be looking at where the node is where the hormones are for growth. So the node is where the buds come from, where the new growth comes from, and that's where the concentration of hormones for growth are. So the plant will recognise that it doesn't have any roots, and it'll start to grow some to rectify the problem. That's what you want to happen. But your best bet is if you can cut just below there, because you're going to get that concentration of hormones. That's the idea, so you've got your best chance. So you can use some secateurs, and you can just cut just below the node. There you go. And I have a little container to put all my stuff in for that goes in the composting. And then you want to reduce the demand on these cuttings for water. So you do that by stripping off some of the leaves, because to support all those leaves, it's impossible without any roots. And you can really strip them quite far back. If you've got some plants that have got big leaves, sage, things like that, you can actually cut the leaves in half. And in fact, I'll show you how to do it here, because it would work. And again, that you can just cut them across with the secateurs, and like so, and it will that'll be fine, be absolutely fine. So you do need to be conscious of that this stem is soft, so you can easily damage it, and you want to work quick really, rather than somebody talking all the way through it. But I'll use the powder for this one to show you. So you're just gonna, all you want to do is dip the end in and then tap off any excess. Hopefully you can see that. Dip in the end, probably a bit too much now on this one. And then you want to tap off any excess, because if there's too much on there and it's too clogged up, then it might rot, and it also, the roots can't get out, it can't get to water, it might form a bit of a cap on it. So you just want a little bit to stimulate it. Effectively, all it's doing is giving it more hormone that it's naturally got in the plant, just to stimulate that growth. Because it's soft, with a hardwood cutting you can just push it in, but because it's soft, it's likely to bend or bruise if you just try and push it in the compost. So what you need to do is get a dibber, like we've used before. You can use a pencil, use a little pencil if you want to, and you want to make a hole as deep as you can get it at the minute, because you're going to sink the cutting in, and you can gently push it in, and you're going to sink it right up to the leaves. Don't bury the leaves, because they might rot, but all the stem and all the nodes that you've got under there are all potential sites for rooting. So if you can sink more of it under there, the better, because it might not. Hopefully, what you want it to do is root from where that cut is, but if that doesn't work, it could root from one of the other points along there. Plus, it's also neater and you can get more in. So I'll show you the next one. So we'll do. I forgot to mention this is marjoram, by the way. So this takes really easy from cuttings. It's good for cooking, but I grow it as much for this bright green sort of acid leaf. It's got a really nice smell, but and the flowers are really nice as well. Little purple flowers, like bunches of them. And the bees love it, so it's win-win really, and it takes no maintenance at all. So again, I'm taking off these leaves, these lower leaves, and you want to get cuttings that aren't flowering, so stems that aren't flowering. So I'll just trim that by the node. So you might be able to hopefully see where the little node is, just there where the leaves come from. I'm just going to cut it by that, nice and neat. I don't use my best secateurs for this. I just use some of my everyday ones that I use in the garden. So I won't put. What I probably should do is do a bit of a trial of a pot with rooting hormone and a pot without, all done at the same time, and see if there's any difference on these. But I'll show you it again for. So you're just gonna sink it in. Hopefully you can see it with the light, and then tap it off, and you can tap it along the side to get the excess off. I always put the lid back on in case I tip it over again, and then you hold down the side of the pot and sink it right in up to those leaves, and just tap it down to get it to settle. What you can do is you can just put a bit more compost on once if it's sunk down a bit. So you're going to go, the aim is to go around the edge of the pot with the cuttings, so you don't want them touching. You want good air movement between them, because touching, when you put them in a moist environment, which we're going to do in a minute, it's likely to get you up the chance of a fungal disease, which could kill your cutting, which you don't want to do after you've taken all this time to do it. So you want good air movement between them, and so you put them around the edge of the pot, so as many as you can get in around the edge of the pot without them touching. I've always been told to do that, and I've always been taught that, and I still see it being taught like that way, is to go around the edge of the pot. The best reasons I've found for not you putting in the middle is that, one is that the drainage is better around the edge of the pot, because the water tends to run down the side of the pot when you water it on the inside, and in the middle, when nothing's growing at the moment, because these cuttings won't grow straight away, is it tends to sit wet. So it's got a high chance of rotting if you put those in the middle. And I also read somewhere that the thought that when the roots start growing from the stems down here, from the nodes on the stems, when they hit the side of the pot, what they do is they branch out, so you get a stronger root system than just in the middle. I don't know how true that is. Maybe somebody can tell me really. So what I would do is I would finish off that pot. I'm not gonna. I think you've got it. You've seen it. I don't need to show you anymore. What I would then do is you can either cover it. You can either use your bag, your freezer bag again, and you can cover it. Because again, remember all the time that these are losing water. I'm going to water them first before I do that. Give them a decent water, and I will probably use one of these bottle top waterers. I bought these from Wilco's before. You can buy them on eBay online. They're really cheap. They're really good because they're gentle watering. I would water it, give it a reasonable water, probably just so it's damp. If it started running out at the bottom, I'd stop straight away. I wouldn't want it any more than that. And it's probably then not going to need watering at all for quite a long time. And put a bag over the top to reduce that water loss, to create a humid atmosphere. Some people put a elastic band around the side, or they put canes inside to stop the bag touching against the plants, to stop it rotting again. Fungal diseases, I do it, but I can see the point in doing that. What I will do is, if you can see here, I've got my propagator here, which I've got some seeds going in there, and I'll put it inside there once it's watered, and I'll cover it up, and that creates that humid atmosphere in there, inside there. Your best to up your chances to get the best possible success rate on these cuttings is you want a heated propagator, like I mentioned before, with the element underneath which forces the heat up, and that stimulates rooting, stimulates seeds to grow. And if you can mist them, so a little mist sprayer, like a hand sprayer, like something like this, if you can mist them regularly, every few days, that keeps the humidity up around the leaves, and prevents that water loss through transpiration all the time. So you're trying to keep them alive, because it's like surgery. This is, it's emergency care really. So you're trying to keep them alive as much as possible. But these want to grow because they're growing fast, and they will grow. And I reckon I'll have more than a 50% success rate with these. And it's plants for free. It's plants for free is what it is. And for some plants that don't come true from seed, such as I've got some here which is a perennial wallflower, which really only comes from cuttings, and every 3 years or so it gets too woody that it needs replacing, and I grow more of these from cuttings. I'll try and put a picture in of that. It's the only way to get more plants of exactly the same, is through cuttings. Some plants, if you grow them from seed again, they'll cross with each other, and the colour might be different, the fall colour might be different. So the only way to get an exact replica of it is cutting. But it's more plants for free.